seated. I'll go back on the record. Is bigger for exhibit number 43.
Thank you, Your Honor. Exhibit number 43, Mr. Watson, is that still in front of you?
It is.
All right. And if you do, how is it that you recognize State's exhibit number 43?
It's a still capture from the video footage of the 4200 main building lobby.
All right. And is that the security video that you reviewed in response to the state's request kept in the ordinary course of business like the other documents and video and the records that we've been talking about?
It is.
Your Honor, at this time, I move State's exhibit number 43 into evidence.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
43 is admitted without objection. You may publish if you wish.
Thank you. Actually, before I do, I think I've addressed our technical difficulties too about State's exhibit number 40. So I'm going to ask Mr. Moore, would you publish what's already been admitted, State's exhibit number 40?
This is 4-0? Okay.
This is 4-0. Mr. Watson, can you see State's exhibit number 40 here? Is it there in front of you?
It is.
All right. Now this is, or you tell the jury, what is it that we're looking at in State's exhibit number 40?
40 was the one from 5:30 in the morning.
All right, this is the first one, the first still video that first still photo that we've seen from the video.
At 5:39 a.m. This was one from earlier. Yes.
All right, and what do you see in State's number 40?
I see one of my security officers behind the console, the guard desk, and
You talked a little bit before about the entrance that is manned or guarded. Is this what you were talking about?
yes, this entrance always has at least one guard at it 24/7.
And what's this area referred to as?
The main lobby.
The main lobby, and it's in the main lobby of the main building, what you talked about.
That's correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
And who else is in the video besides the two security guards that you see?
The security officer and Mr. Newman.
Mr. Newman, you see him coming in?
Yes.
All right. What's the timestamp on that?
It's 5:39 a.m.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Mr. Moore, can we see State's exhibit number 41? Is State's exhibit number 41 there in front of you?
It is.
I'm sorry, number 41? The elevator? Thank you. This is the second video that you pulled, the second photo that you pulled from the surveillance video of November 18, 2010, and that's the defendant where?
At the south bank of elevators,
And what's the timestamp on that?
5:39.
And that's consistent with the card swipe that information that you provided to us earlier, is that right?
Yes.
All right. Now can we see the video, or the still of State's exhibit number 42? State's exhibit number 42 there in front of you?
Yes.
And what is it we're looking at here in State's exhibit number 42?
That's the smoker's door or the door leading into the parking garage.
And who is that's exiting the building?
That would appear to be the defendant.
And what time?
That was at 5:51 in the a.m.
AM?
Yes.
And now let's look at State's exhibit number 43,
Okay.
what you just identified for us. State's exhibit number 43, what are we looking at here?
That would be the main lobby again. That would be the guard desk. That would be a receptionist in the blue, and that would be the defendant signing out a visitor badge. It would appear that's what you do at that desk, at that station.
Okay, you talked about a little kiosk that you have to use in order to request a visitor's badge. Is that what the defendant's doing there?
That's correct. That's a touch screen where you enter your information, and then you would have to provide your ID to the person to prove that the name on the ID and the photo matches you, it matches what you put into the system. That information has to be verified, and then they issue the visitor badge.
Even for someone who works in that building every day, as Mr. Newman did at that time?
Yes.
What's the timestamp on that?
12:14 p.m.
Mr. Watson, do you see yourself in that stuff?
That would be me at the end of the counter speaking with the elevator guy.
Which one is you?
The one with the nice hair.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Watson.
You're welcome.
You may cross-examine if you wish.
Good morning, Mr. Watson.
Good morning.
The badge that he used that morning to get in, that's a badge with a photo on it, correct?
The first badge, like at 5:39? Yes, ma'am, that's a photo badge.
And that's, you either wear that clipped to your belt or you wear that around your neck?
That's correct.
So anytime an employee is in the building, they're essentially labeled for who they are, correct?
That's correct.
And when he signed out the visitor's badge, you've got that listing of the visitor's badges. That's not the first time he had taken out a visitor's badge, correct?
No.
And in fact, he had taken out visitor's badges on multiple times in the past, correct?
Yes. This is a record of everything from 05 to 11, yes.
And that wouldn't be unusual for an employee to take out a visitor badge if their badge was left in their office or left someplace else, correct?
No, it happens.
So if you did a printout like that for all the visitor badges, for most employees, you'd have multiple listings?
There would be more than one person, yes.
And when you check out a visitor badge, there's no question about who you are. You've got to prove who you are, correct?
That's correct.
And you've got to actually show a photo ID.
That's correct.
And that goes on record. You have to enter in who you are. That goes on record just like your regular ID, correct?
That's correct.
So there's nothing about the visitor badge process that would help you avoid a record being made of your coming in the building, correct?
No, there's a record made.
And there was certainly no attempt here to present a false ID or enter in under another name. He gave his correct name and he signed out an ID with his correct ID, correct?
Yes, he would have had to provide his correct name.
Now, the first visitor ID that he checks out, that's at the building where Andrea Sneiderman works, correct?
That's correct.
And you have since learned that he actually went up to the second floor to her office, correct?
I learned that he went to the second floor.
And you learned that he picked up a computer from her office?
That hasn't been discussed with me.
And then after he left that building, he took out a second visitor badge at the 4200 building where he worked, right?
That is correct.
And he couldn't have used that first badge to get into the 4200 building.
I can't remember how it was set up at the time. At one point in time, the badges were able to be used at all the buildings. At another point in time, you would have to turn it in and get a fresh one for that building. But at this time, I can't remember which way it was.
Okay. But you know that day he turned in the first badge and then got a second badge.
The first badge for the 2018 building was not turned in.
Okay.
Not right away, anyway.
It was eventually turned in, though.
Eventually, yeah.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Any redirect?
Just briefly.
Ask as many as you wish.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hey, Mr. Watson, if I asked you to just pull Hemy Newman's employee access for the day of November 18th, 2010, what would you have given me? In fact, what did you give me?
State's Exhibit 37.
State's Exhibit number 37. Does all the visitor badge access stuff, does that show up on State's Exhibit number 37?
No, it did not.
Does that show up if I just ask for his information by name?
Does that show? I'm sorry, say again?
Does that show up if I just ask for all the badge for that employee? All the badge access stuff for that employee?
No, not on this report. No, not.
The state had to ask you for something else, right?
Yes,
We had to ask you to go look at the video, right?
correct.
And we had to ask you to check the visitor badge just to make sure, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Sampson, any requests?
No, Your Honor.
Lawyer has made Mr. Watson be released and excused from the subpoena. Do you want him to remain under subpoena?
You may be excused from the state, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you're free to go, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Call your next witness, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Carmen Harding.
Go ahead and have a seat. Raise your right hand. Solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you give this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Lord, please state and spell your name for the record.
Carmen Harding, CarmenHarding.
And Ms. Harding, where are you employed?
GE.
And in November 2010, where were you employed?
GE.
How long have you worked there?
I've been with GE for 25 years.
And what are your responsibilities? What do you do for them?
I'm an administrative assistant.
Were you assisting any one person or any group of people in November of 2010?
I was.
And what was your job at that time?
I was administrative assistant for 2 managers,
And who were those managers?
Steve Hartman and Hemy Neuman.
How long were you working with Mr. Neuman?
2 years.
And what was Mr. Newman's role in the company at that time?
He was quality operations manager.
A manager? Okay. And what kind of things would you do to assist Mr. Newman?
Manage his calendar, basically.
What, if anything, did you do involving trips or travel for Mr. Newman?
I just got him a car to pick him up at home and take him to the airport.
If he were taking a trip to any location relevant to his GE employment, would you make those arrangements for him, or would he typically
No,
make them himself?
he would make them himself.
Okay. Did you keep up with who he traveled with or the specific locations he was going to?
No.
Where was the defendant's office in November 2010?
In the 4200 building at GE?
Okay, is that considered the main building?
Yes.
And where was your desk? Where were you seated?
I was, he was like in the middle of the 3rd floor, and I was in a corner on the left-hand side of the building. On
Of the
3rd
same floor?
Yes.
Okay. And how often would you see the defendant during a typical work week?
Maybe 4 or 5 times a week.
All right. Did he have any other assistants providing him with backup, or no, just you? So if he needed something,
He would
it
come
was
to
you
me.
he went to?
Yes.
Can you speak audibly for me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Did you ever socialize with the defendant?
And I just team lunches or Christmas parties.
Okay. Was the defendant good at his job from what you were able to personally
Yes, he
observe?
was.
And how did you find him to be personally?
He was very direct, very personal with everybody.
You considered him personable?
Yes.
Did he appear to get along well with his peers?
Yes.
Did he appear to get along with team members?
Yes.
And did he appear to get along with the support staff?
Yes.
Did you ever notice anything unusual about his behavior?
No.
Was there ever anything that caused you any concern?
No.
Did Mr. Newman act any differently than any other manager in your experience in GE?
No.
Did you know Andrea Sneiderman?
I did.
Okay, and how did you know Andrea Sneiderman?
She worked for Hemy.
When you say she worked for Hemy, she was another employee at GE?
Correct.
All right. And what was the relationship? Who reported to who with Ms. Sneiderman and Mr. Newman?
So she reported to Hemy.
She reported to Hemy?
Yes.
And were you also providing services for Ms. Sneiderman? Was that part of your
Very
job?
minimum.
Okay. Your primary duties were?
Was Hemy and my other boss.
Okay. Were you considered part of the same team that Mr. Newman and Ms. Sneiderman were on?
Yes, because I supported him, so yes.
Okay. So when you talked about lunches, team lunches, things like that?
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever get a chance to see the defendant and Ms. Sneiderman together?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you observe about their behavior together?
They were very friendly with each other.
Did you ever see any very obvious physical affection between them?
Not physical affection, no.
Okay. Did they appear to be any closer or any more friendly than the other members on the team?
Yes, they did.
They did?
Yes.
Was there anyone that the defendant was closer to than Ms. Sneiderman that you were able to observe?
No.
Was there anyone that Ms. Sneiderman was closer to than Mr. Newman that you were able to observe?
No.
November 18th, 2010. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. And what time did you get to work that day? Do you recall?
Usually 8:30.
8:30. That was your typical time to arrive?
Yes.
Did you see the defendant when you arrived at 8:30?
No, I did not.
Was the defendant typically in his office, or would you typically see him when you arrived at work at 8:30 if he was in town?
I would only see his calendar to know that if he was in or not.
Okay, tell me about that. How did you said you managed his calendar. How do you manage his calendar?
So I used to see, accept meetings that he would attend or decline, or print out the calendar in the morning to see what he was doing during the day.
Every morning you did that?
Yes.
Okay. So you printed out his calendar Do you recall printing it out on November 18th, 2010? And what, if anything, was on it?
He had it blocked the whole morning for investment meeting, he said.
And did you make that entry into the defendant's
No.
calendar? Who else had access to the defendant's calendar to make entries like that?
Well, any employee could send him like a meeting request, but that was not a meeting request. It was just someone blocked the time.
Okay, and it wasn't you?
No.
Was there anything unusual about the way that time was blocked off?
No, I just noticed that it was an investment meeting, which I didn't know what it was, so.
Okay. Did the defendant identify a location where he was going to be?
No.
Did he leave you a note saying, hey, Carmen, I'll be back later, anything like that?
No.
Any other participants in this investment
No.
meeting? Okay. Do you recall seeing the defendant at all on November 18th, 2010?
No.
Ms. Harding, how did you find out about the shooting of Russell Sneiderman, Andrea's husband? Do you remember?
Yeah, we got an email from the manager sent to us.
You got an email from the manager?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Ms. Harding, I'm going to show you what's already been marked as State's Exhibit number 44. And I'm going to ask if you recognize it.
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize State's Exhibit number 44?
This was the email that we got from Hemy letting us know what happened with Andrea's husband.
And after your review of it, does it appear to be a fair and accurate representation of the email that was sent to you by Mr. Neuman related to the subject matter you just talked about?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time we move State's Exhibit number 44 into evidence.
Any objection? All right, 44 is a modified objection. You may publish it if you wish.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you see 44, please? Ms. Harding, what time did Mr. Neuman send that email?
He sent it at 1:36 p.m. on the 19th.
And who did he send it to?
Excuse me?
Who did he send it to?
He sent it to his staff,
All right.
and then myself and his boss's admin.
All right. And I'm going to ask Mr. Moore to help us see the thing. Is that your email address there?
That is, yes.
And who's Donna Wilson?
She was his boss's admin.
Okay. All right. And in case it's from Mr. Moore, what's the subject line of the email?
Andrea out on PB.
All right. And is there any notation to you from Mr. Neuman?
Just that he forgot to copy me on the original.
And what is he referencing according to the email that he forgot to copy you on?
He's referencing the fact that Andrea's husband passed away.
Okay. Can we move down a little bit, Mr. Moore, please? Thank you. Is this a group email? That
Yes.
Mr. Neuman sent out? And what's the date and time of that email that was then forwarded to you later was sent?
November 19th, 2010,
At what time?
at 1:36 p.m.
Okay. And do those individuals, we don't need to call out their names, but who were those individuals as it relates to Mr. Newman's team?
They worked for Hemy.
Okay. And with Andrea?
Yes.
Okay. And can we see the body of the text, please? Ms. Harding, would you read that for us, please?
I regret to inform you that Andrea's husband, Rusty Russell, passed away yesterday morning in unfortunate circumstances. Our thoughts and prayers are with Andrea, her 2 children, and the entire family. Below are the details of the funeral. Funeral details, Sunday, 11.
Okay, thank you. You don't need to read all the details. Can you pick up then with the text?
Tomorrow's obituary in the AJC will have details on any donations instead of sending flowers. I will provide details on any additional bereavement action that the Sneidermans will have as I find out about them. Hemy.
Okay, thank you. And further down, was there another email from Mr. Neuman to the same team?
Yes.
What was the date and time of that original email?
November 18th, 2010, 1:33 p.m.
And those individuals are, as we discussed, members of the team
Yes,
that would have been working with Mr. Neuman and Ms. Sneiderman during November 2010.
correct.
Can you read for us the text that's on sheet 2 of that 2-page document that's now appended as State's Exhibit number 44?
Andrea will be out for some time to take care of some personal issues. I will let you know status, and when she will return. Thank you for your understanding and support, Hemy.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Lane, you may cross-examine if you wish.
Good morning, Ms. Harding.
Good morning.
So as part of your support for Mr. Newman, you said you took care of his calendar, correct?
Correct.
And you talked about the calendar and how different entries get put on it.
Right.
Obviously, you can access his calendar and add entries or delete entries, correct?
Correct.
He has access to his calendar, correct?
Yes.
And it wouldn't have been unusual for him to add meetings or add things that he had going on.
No.
And then other folks can send him meeting requests.
Correct.
Right? And those will pop up.
Yes.
And then you respond, yes, will attend, will not.
Right.
You mentioned that he was blocked off on the morning of the 18th for an investment meeting, and you didn't know what that was about.
Correct.
Did you always know what his meetings were about?
No.
On his calendar, he would sometimes put when he had a lunch meeting, correct?
Correct.
And you noticed that he had a lot of lunches with Andrea, correct?
Correct.
And that's because he put them on his calendar, right?
Right.
Was it unusual for him to put that he was having a lunch meeting with a specific person on his calendar?
No.
Did he have an unusual amount of lunches with Andrea Sneiderman as opposed to other people on his team?
I thought so.
Now, you described Hemy as somebody who was direct, correct?
Right.
And personable.
Yes.
He always treated you well, correct?
Right.
You never saw him treating another employee poorly.
No.
Did you interact with him at any of his meetings?
No.
So you didn't attend his meetings?
No.
And you said you saw him, I think, 4 or 5 times a week
Yes.
on average? And when you saw him, was that just going over the calendar or him saying, hey, I need some travel, help arranging a car for travel?
Yes, whatever he needed.
He didn't come by your desk and just start chatting about his personal life, did he?
No.
He didn't ever call you up at home and talk to you, just, hey, how you doing?
No.
Didn't invite you out for lunches, just you and he?
No.
At some point in December, was he out of the office?
Yes.
And do you recall why?
Yes.
He was in the hospital, correct?
Correct.
And did you went to visit him, right?
Yes.
And when you went to visit him, was he there with anybody else? Was anybody with him?
Someone was leaving
Okay. And do you know who that was?
his daughter.
And he appeared upset, didn't he?
Yes.
And as far as you know, they'd gotten into an argument?
Objection, Your Honor.
I don't.
What's the objection?
Objection, Your Honor. I lack a foundation.
All right, sustain the objection. Lay a foundation. She may or may not be an answer, but lay a foundation.
She basically said she didn't know, so I'll move
All
on.
right.
But he did appear upset to you, correct?
Yes.
And he started discussing with you some things from his past.
Correct.
Some time he spent in Israel,
Yes.
and he appeared to you upset about that.
Yes.
And this time that he spent in Israel that he was referring to was not as an adult, was it?
No.
It was when he was a child.
Correct.
And he'd never talked to you about his childhood before.
No.
The emails that Hemy sent on the 11th, November 18th and 19th, the first one about Andrea being out, and then the second one saying that Rusty had been shot and killed. Are those emails atypical for a team leader to send out to his team when something major happens?
Yes, I did not get the first one. I got the second one.
Okay.
Yes.
Not sure I phrased that for you to understand properly. If there is a major event, life event in somebody's life, is it unusual for the team leader to let the other team members know about it?
It is not unusual.
Okay. So it was not unusual that Hemy was the one who sent an email saying somebody on his team had an issue.
Right.
The team that you worked for had a Christmas party, correct?
Yes.
And did GE have one main Christmas party, or did individual teams plan their own?
Individual managers have their own.
And so it was typical to have a Christmas party with your team, correct?
Correct.
And in 2009, that party was at Hemy's house, correct?
Yes.
Okay. In 2010, it was not,
Correct.
but Hemy was in attendance, correct?
Yes.
And you were there, right? And at that party, Hemy read a prayer, correct?
Yes.
And that was unusual.
Yes.
right? It was unusual for him to have read a prayer, correct?
Right.
You'd never seen him do that before.
No.
And it was unusual to sort of bring religion into it, even though it was a Christmas party, correct?
Right.
And that's because people have different religious beliefs, and that just didn't normally happen.
Right.
Thank you, Ms. Hardy.
In the redirect,
Yes, sir.
you may.
Thank you. Ms. Harding, that Christmas party or holiday party in 2009 that you were just telling Ms. Delanne about, where was that located?
It was his house.
At who's that, the defendant's
Hemy's
house?
house, yes.
Was his wife there?
Yes.
Did you see the two of them interact?
Yes.
How big a party was this?
It was a great party. It was very fun.
It was a very fun party?
Yes.
About how many people were there?
The team, maybe like 30 people.
Okay. Anything unusual in the defendant's behavior that you observed?
Not at all.
Anything unusual in the relationship between he and his wife that you were able to discern from
Not
watching
at
them
all.
that night? Okay. Have you still got State's Exhibit number 44 in front of you?
Yes.
This one asked you if it was unusual for the team leader to send out an email like that, letting people know about what's going on. Now knowing that the defendant shot and killed Rusty Sneiderman just hours before that email was sent, does it seem unusual now?
Very.
Thank you.
In the rebuttal. Lawyer has made this witness be released and excused from her subpoena. Do you want her to remain on the subpoena?
She may be excused from the state, Your Honor.
No reason not to excuse her.
All right, be free to go. Have a good afternoon. Good morning. Call your next witness.
Michael Farnum.
Go ahead and have a seat. Go ahead and raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to affirm that the testimony you shall give this court should be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
May you lower your hand. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Michael Farnum, Farnam.
Mr. Farnum, where are you employed?
I'm employed at Janssen Pharmaceutical, a division of Johnson & Johnson.
Okay. And how long have you worked there?
Almost 3 years.
Okay. Prior to that, where did you work?
GE Energy.
Okay. And is that GE Energy located here in Atlanta?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know the defendant, Hemy Neuman?
Yes.
How do you know him?
Mr. Newman hired me actually in April of 2008.
Okay. And in what capacity did you work for GE starting in 2008?
Reporting to Hemy Neuman as a regulatory compliance program manager.
Okay. And could you tell the jurors a little bit about what that is?
Okay, so in GE Energy, we've got, GE has various technologies, and we supported, we were in engineering services supporting those technologies, and in particular in my area with regulatory compliance as it applied to the products that we manufactured and sold in overseas.
Okay. And at that time, what was the defendant's position?
Mr. Neumann was Energy Services Engineering Operations and Quality Manager.
Okay. And so, since he had those two different things, operations and quality, which side were you on?
I was on the quality
Quality
side.
side,
Yeah.
okay. Now, did you report directly to him?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
And so is it fair to say that you worked for him?
I worked for him, yes.
Okay. And did you have regular contact with him?
I did. Our offices were separated by maybe half a building or so, but we would pass each other in the hallway a couple times a week, and then we would be in meetings once or twice a week together.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about those meetings. Were they individual meetings or were they group meetings?
Both.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the group meetings that you had.
Okay.
Who all would be involved in these group meetings?
It would be a staff meeting, so all of Mr. Newman's direct reports.
So is that basically kind of like everybody on his team?
Yes, everybody.
Okay. And do you recall about how many people he had on his team?
I recall 8 to 10 of us.
Okay. On the quality side?
On the quality side, I'd say 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so go ahead, talk about the team meetings. What would y'all do at the team meetings?
Okay, so we would go around the table to provide project updates. Mr. Newman would provide us with information flowing down through the organization, and we would talk about priorities and those kinds of things.
Okay. Yeah. And who was it that typically ran Hemy Neuman's team meetings?
Mr. Newman did.
Okay.
But there was interaction with everyone.
So everybody, all the team members would have some input?
Yeah.
Okay.
Depending on the subject matter, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
At any of those team meetings, from April of 2008 up through November of 2010, did you ever see anything odd about the defendant's behavior?
No.
Okay. Did you ever see anything that you would characterize as off about his behavior?
No.
Okay. Did he ever appear at any of those team meetings in any way confused?
No.
Okay. Did he ever appear in any of those meetings to be seeing something or hearing something that wasn't there?
No.
Did he ever appear to be delusional in any way?
No.
Okay. How would you describe Hemy Neuman in those team meetings with the different team players that worked for him?
Mr. Newman was a highly regarded manager in the company, very intelligent, very strategic, and highly respected and regarded as such in the organization, and led our meetings and provided leadership to us in a very confident manner.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit. You said strategic. Was that something necessary for his job with what his team was working on?
Yes.
Okay. And you said he was confident?
Yes.
Okay. Was he overly confident based on what you were able to observe of his capabilities? Or was it well?
It was appropriate.
Appropriate
Yeah.
confidence. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Would you say that he was very capable at his job?
Yes, very capable.
Okay. And as far as being a team leader, was he able to delegate responsibilities to the other team members?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any time that he ever asked you to do anything as part of your job that seemed off or seemed odd in any way?
No.
When you had these team meetings, about how long did they last?
About an hour.
Okay.
An hour to an hour and a half, I'd say.
And how often were they?
I believe those were every 2 weeks.
Okay. And were they on any particular day, or was it just at some point during the week every 2 weeks?
They
when
were
everybody-
scheduled on a particular day
Okay.
and time.
Okay. Now, did the defendant also have one-on-one meetings with you?
Yes, well,
Okay.
all of the team members.
Okay.
Yes.
And let's talk about your one-on-one meetings with him. Where did those usually take place?
In Mr. Newman's office,
Okay. And how long did those meetings last?
Approximately 30 minutes
Okay, and how often did you meet with him on that one-on-one basis?
weekly.
Okay, so weekly you were in his office for about a half hour, you said?
Right.
Okay. And what types of things would you talk about at your one-on-one meetings?
It was an opportunity to, for Mr. Neumann to provide me with feedback on performance and to discuss the projects I was working on and identify any barriers that he could help me circumvent.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And in those one-on-one meetings, same questions. Anything odd or off about his behavior?
No,
Did he ever appear to be suffering from any delusions?
no,
Did he ever appear confused?
no,
At any point, either in the one-on-one meetings or in the group meetings, did he ever not seem focused on the meeting?
no,
Okay, would you describe him in general as a focused person?
yes,
Would you describe him as a driven person?
yes,
Would you describe him as a goal-oriented person?
yes,
Okay. And did all of those things assist him in being this senior manager over this team?
I would say so, yes.
Okay. At any point in any of your, do you recall, let me ask this, do you recall when your weekly meetings were with him?
Over those 2.5 years, there may have been some changes day to day and time to time, but most recently they were on Thursdays at 9 o'clock.
Okay, let's talk about that then. So, did you have a meeting with him scheduled for Thursday, November 18th, 2010?
Yes, at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was that the regular time that you typically met, 9
Yeah,
o'clock?
yes.
Okay. And it was typically that you met with him on Thursdays?
Yes.
Okay. About how, I know you had said earlier it may have been a little different on different days. About how long would you say you had been meeting with Hemy Neuman at 9 o'clock on Thursdays?
This is a guess. I'm going to say 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so basically every Thursday you two met in his office for about a half hour to talk
Yes.
about things? Okay. On that particular day, November 18th, 2010, did you have your regularly scheduled meeting at 9 o'clock?
No, we didn't.
Why not?
When I arrived at work that morning and I opened up my email, I saw that the meeting had been changed to 2:30 that day.
Okay. And did you change that meeting?
No,
Okay. Do you, was there anyone else that was scheduled to be in that meeting other than yourself and the defendant?
no, it was a one-on-one.
Okay.
Right.
And so, was it the defendant that changed the meeting?
I believe at the time that there are two people that could have changed it. Mr. Neumann or his administrative assistant, I
Okay.
think, could have changed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so if it was not his, and who was his administrative assistant at the time, do you know?
I believe it was Carmen Harding.
Okay. And so if it wasn't Ms. Harding that changed it and it wasn't you that changed it, would there be any reason for any other person to change it that wasn't involved in, anybody that wasn't involved in the meeting?
No,
Okay. So let's talk about, did you meet with him that day then at the changed time?
yes, we did.
Okay, and what time was that?
That was at 2:30
Okay. Where did you meet with him at 2:30 on November 18th, 2010?
in his office.
Okay, so it was done just like you would normally do them, just at a different time?
Right.
Okay. And in his office at 2:30, how was that meeting?
It was a typical meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything strange about that meeting?
No,
Anything off or odd about the defendant's behavior that day?
no,
Okay. Had you seen him prior to your 2:30 meeting on that day?
no, that was the first I'd seen him.
Okay. Did he seem rational?
Yes,
Did he seem coherent?
yes,
Did he seem to have his wits about him?
yes.
Was there anything about his behavior or his demeanor that gave you any kind of concern?
No,
Did you have any reason that day or any other day to question his mental stability?
no,
Did he ever say anything to you that seemed, odd or off that would give you pause for what was going on in his
no.
mind?
Always professional in his conduct.
And on that particular day, November 18th, 2010, when you met with him in that afternoon, did he seem delusional?
No,
Did he seem in any way that he was not fully focused on your meeting as he would be on any other day?
no.
How did you, or did you at some point find out that one of your coworkers' husbands husband had been shot and killed.
I did find out driving home that evening,
Okay.
a coworker called me.
Okay, and just to be clear, did you know Andrea Sneiderman?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you work closely with her?
Not closely. We were in the same team. We worked in different buildings. I had some interactions
Okay.
with her in group settings and emails and things like that.
Okay, now when you say you worked on the same team, just to be clear, that team is Hemy Neuman's team?
Yes.
Okay. Did your job link into her job very closely in any way?
Not closely.
Okay. So you said you were driving home that day, and that's how you found out about Rusty Sneiderman's death?
Yes.
Okay. Did you find out in any way about the funeral arrangements or the Shiva?
Yes, I was aware of both.
Okay. And did you attend either of those?
I did not attend the funeral, but I did attend the Shiva.
Okay. And do you recall where that was located?
That was at the Sneiderman home.
Okay. And did you go with other GE members, or did you go by yourself?
So a group of us went, but didn't travel together. I think I was the second one of the group to get there, and then approximately 15 minutes later, a larger portion of the group, or the rest of the group, arrived.
Okay. And when you were there at the Shiva, was the defendant there as well?
Yes.
Okay. Had you ever been to a Shiva before?
No.
Did you have any indication as to what to expect at a Shiva?
Yes.
How did you know what a Shiva was about at that point?
Right. Mr. Newman had coordinated our group and explained briefly what to expect when we got there.
And he explained what it was and what it was
Yes.
about? Okay. And was it what you would kind of equate to as like a Christian wake?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And at that, at the Shiva, at the Sneiderman's home, were there a lot of GE people there?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have any interaction with the defendant?
No. I mean, we passed each other, other than saying hello.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see anything odd about his demeanor?
No.
Okay. Do you know where he was at the Shiva? Let me ask you a better question. You said you didn't really have much interaction with him. Where was he in relation to where you were in the Sneiderman home?
Well, there was some movement throughout the evening. I mean, at times we were at one point we were shoulder to shoulder, and that's when we acknowledged each other and said hello. And then we were in a big open, well, there were a couple of adjoining rooms where the people had gathered. And so I was anywhere from shoulder to shoulder to, 30 feet away.
Okay. And did you see Hemy Neuman interacting at all with the Sneiderman family?
Yes.
Okay. And where did that take place?
That was in the I think the family room where the seating had been set up for the Shiva service.
Okay. And what do you recall his interaction with the family to be?
One of helping where he could is what I remember.
And you said you did not go to the funeral?
Did not.
Okay. With regards to going back to the Shiva, how long did you stay there at the Shiva?
I'm going to say about an hour. There was a formal ceremony. I stayed through that, and after that, I paid my respects and then left.
Okay. And where was the defendant during that formal ceremony or that portion of it?
Sitting with the family is what I recall.
Sitting with the Sneiderman family?
Yes.
And, okay, so once you left, did you have any other contact with anyone in the family after that night?
After that night? No.
No, okay. So now, with regards to your time working with the defendant from 2008 to 2010,
Yes.
in that time period, was he the type of boss that you could go to for advice or some counseling?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever go to him for any advice?
I did.
Okay. Did you feel comfortable doing that?
Yes.
Okay. And what type of advice did you seek from him?
It could be how to deal with certain situations in the organization as they related to the projects I was working on, how to deal with personalities that he knew that maybe I didn't know so well, how to resource the projects that I was working on, how to approach various situations.
And would that be something that you would go to him separate from your one-on-one meeting, or would that be something that you would discuss with him at your one-on-one meeting?
It was both.
Okay. In particular, on November 18th, 2010, in the meeting that you had with him that was changed from 9 a.m. to 2:30, did you have any discussions with him or seek his counsel or his advice on anything that day?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah,
Could you
and
explain that to the jurors?
Sure, and I would go in with notes and come out with notes in all of these meetings, right? And I was working on a particular project, and I did ask for some advice on how to deal with some individuals that were involved with the project and how to approach certain situations with certain individuals.
Okay.
And I was advised on how Mr. Neuman might handle it, and he offered to step in and help or advise me on how I might handle it, and I chose the latter. And he said, if you feel comfortable and confident in doing it, go for it, and that's what I did.
So that advice that he gave you was during that 2:30 meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Was it, in your opinion, good advice?
It was good advice.
Okay. Was
Yes.
it sound and reasonable advice?
Yes.
If at any point in your entire 2 years that you worked with the defendant, at any point in there, was there anything that made you think that he was anything less than a capable, direct, assertive, I think you said goal-oriented leader?
No.
That's all the questions that I have, Your Honor.
Mr. Land, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Mr. Farnum.
Good morning.
When you were working for Hemy, you said you worked on the quality side, correct?
Yes.
He also had an operations side, correct?
Yes.
So two different roles?
Yeah. Two different groups of people, if you will.
And so that would require him to not only be strategic, as you said, right?
Yeah.
To be able to compartmentalize
Yes.
and be organized.
Yes.
You worked for him from 2008 to 2010, correct?
Correct.
And would you consider yourself personal friends?
We had I would think what I would call a typical manager-employee relationship. We didn't do things on the weekends together or like that, but we did go, as a group we would get together for
Social
various
outings.
events and socialize, sure.
Okay. But not somebody that you would call up on a Saturday and say, hey, do you want to go hang out?
No,
You want to go have a beer?
no,
Did he ever discuss his personal life with you?
no,
You talked about him being the type of manager where you could go to him for advice and counseling, and that you did so, correct?
yes,
That was professional advice and professional counseling, correct?
yes, right.
You didn't go to him and say, hey, I'm having a really hard time with my girlfriend, wife, whatever.
No,
You talked about the different types of meetings that you had, the team meetings and then the one-on-one meetings. The one-on-one meetings you said were in Hemy's office, correct?
yes.
Was there ever a time where you had a meeting with him one-on-one outside of the office?
I recall going to lunch, but I think that was actually during the interview
Okay.
before he hired me.
We're going to hit the pause button right there, ladies and gentlemen, as I indicated, I'm trying to leave the system. Excuse me, break. And I just want that down, don't pick up at this point in time, I bet you get put them back in the box for 9 minutes. All right.
may be seated.
You'll be back in 10 minutes.